It isn't what you think. This virus is not in fact what you have been led to believe. Like a religious belief, a blind faith in the system and arms of the state has rendered the masses infantile, crying for mother's milk, mother's grace and soothing maternal healing, her promises of safety, her guarantees of protection. It isn't what you think, it is what you fear. It is what you are afraid of that shapes your perspective. Your vision has been blurred by sweaty brow. Anxiety has soiled the pits of your cotton garments. Fear and anxiety have usurped society's ability to reason, its capacity for rational thought, and ability to spiritually discern. No, in fact, it is not what you think, but what you fear. Anxiety and emotion have spread in such a way that now a rabid mob remains. Overblown news broadcasts, hysterical Reddit posts, and social media platforms smoke with erratic and dramatic fervor over inconclusive evidence and exaggerated figures. As the fearful run and hide, begging to be hid away in their safe spaces, far and away from impending dis-ease, they relish in their captivity, finding refuge in their toiletries, assured that it will save them.
Bravo!
And save the world from the tentacles of a big bad virus. Yet they far from understand the information that has been given them, and they overcompensate for visions and projections of the unknown. They trade their humanity for mystery meat. How is it that such drastic actions are being taken for reasons unfounded? If this so-called virus was as deadly as reported, sure it would be causing mass death uniformly across the world. Death does not discriminate. How is it that entire countries like Romania, for instance, have but 400 cases, or Hungary, that displays 10 million strong in population, has a mere 130 cases with only 6 deaths in the span of 3 whole months? Yet the Prime Minister is frantically shutting down the country as if the bubonic plague has reached its soil. It isn't what you think. It's what you fear. A virus seems to be playing the role of the villain in this drama, the perfect trigger for the rolling out of an authoritarian technocratic dictatorship. Unfortunately, these safety promises, relief measures, and security packages are mere placeholders for bigger ambitions, colder results. And these processes will lead to reform that will not be temporary, nor reversible. They will be permanent and enforced by hammer and fist. And this is not an event. It is a paradigm shift in the guise of a freak accident, a crisis being abused by abusers for ulterior motives, breeding a pandemic for spiritual implosion, interpersonal distress, and economic collapse.
You are an old man who thinks in terms of nations and peoples. There are no nations. There are no peoples. There are no Russians. There are no Arabs. There are no third worlds. There is no West. There is only one holistic system of systems. One vast and immane, interwoven, interacting, multivariate, multinational dominion of dollars. Petrodollars, electrodollars, multi-dollars, Reichmarks, Rins, rubles, pounds, and shekels. It is the international system of currency which determines the totality of life. That is the natural order of things today. There is no America. There is no democracy. We no longer live in a world of nations and ideologies, Mr. Beale. The world is a college of corporations, inexorably determined by the immutable bylaws of business. The world is a business, Mr. Beale. It has been since man crawled out of the slime. And our children will live, Mr. Beale, to see that perfect world in which there's no war or famine, oppression or brutality. One vast and ecumenical holding company for whom all men will work to serve a common profit, in which all men will hold a share of stock, all necessities provided, all anxieties tranquilized, all boredom amused.
I want to show you how I know that the current C virus situation is a setup. But before I show you what I want to show you, we need to discuss the number 33. There is no number that holds more esoteric significance than the number 33. The number 3 itself is significant in all major religions. The number 33 has always been important to secret societies and is often concealed within significant literary works, along with your daily news articles. The ancient Celtic religion believed that everything happens in threes. The triskel is an ancient Irish symbol over 5,000 years old that stands for unity of the three. In the case of the Celts, this is physical, mental, and spiritual. It also symbolizes the eternal life, the flow of nature, and spiritual growth. At the Vatican, there are 32 archways on each side of the courtyard with a giant obelisk in the middle. The Pope's cassock has 32 buttons and his head represents the 33rd. The United Nations flag divided into 33 sections encircled by olive branches. The flag also happens to be blue, just like the 3 blue degrees of Masonry. 33 is also the highest degree of Scottish Rite Freemasonry. There are 13 degrees of York Rite Masonry. Our measuring system originated in Masonic France in 1790s, which explains why 13 standard inches is equal to precisely 33 metric centimeters. The Grand Orient de France of Freemasonry was founded in 1733. Harry S. Truman, a 33rd degree Freemason, became 33rd President of the United States. Also, Adolf Hitler himself became Chancellor of Germany in 1933. The Masonic Great Seal with the Latin New World Order was added to the dollar bill in 1933. Walt Disney himself was a 33rd degree Freemason, so of course we have the secretive Club 33 at Disneyland. Astronaut Buzz Aldrin is also a well-known 33rd degree Freemason, and he's the son of a 33rd degree Freemason, Neil Armstrong Jr., who supposedly performed a Masonic ceremony 33 minutes after arriving on the moon. It's also believed that Freemason Neil Armstrong Jr. performed a Masonic ceremony 33 minutes after arriving on the moon. The first Temple of Solomon stood for 33 years before being pillaged. So now we can see the number 33 is especially special. We see this number manifesting in a myriad of ways and places, and almost always associated with an important event. And now that we understand a little bit more about the power and significance of the number 33, I want to show you the connection with the number 33 and our recent C virus pandemic. It begins several years ago in May of 2015. We got this story here concerning Bill Gates. Global pandemic will wipe out 33 million in 1 year. Now we flash forward a few years to just over the last few weeks. And it's really incredible how often the number 33 is showing up in connection to the C virus. We have the story here. Louisiana now has 33 C virus cases. Another story, C virus cases in Michigan climb to 33. Business activity in China is at 33% of its pre-C virus norm. MRT3 allows only 30 to 33 passengers per train as part of measures versus the C virus. 5 of 33 C virus patients are from Marikina, Mayor says. And check out what they did here. 33 cases in Colorado as of 3 p.m. on March 11th. So we have another 311 or another 33. And another one, C virus. Egypt records 33 new cases on cruise ship. Thailand reports new case of C virus, now totaling 33. 3 more virus patients die, 33 new cases in King County. Virus update, U.S. death total at 21,547 confirmed cases in 33 states. Egypt confirms another 33 virus cases from Nile cruise boat. California monitoring 8,400 people for the virus. 33 have tested positive. With 33 virus cases, Thailand still welcomes Chinese tourists. China imposes travel restrictions on 33 million people as virus toll climbs. No signs of the virus in 33 who returned from Wuhan. Australia confirms 33 virus cases, over 90,000 affected globally. Chinese doctors released chest scans of a 33-year-old virus patient that show what the illness looks like in her lungs. 7 new virus cases in Bahrain total up to 33. 33-year-old Chinese woman infected with virus gives birth to a healthy baby. C virus cases in India rise to 33. DHS says 33 people in Wisconsin have tested positive for C virus. 16 new virus cases confirmed in Colorado, bringing first sign of limited community spread. Total number of test-confirmed virus cases in Colorado rises to 33. Thai virus cases up by 33 in country's biggest daily jump. Virus cases in Maharashtra reach 33. Another 7 test positive for the virus, total now at 33. Death toll in France from the virus reaches 33. Virus cases in New York State increased to 33. And here's a few examples I can only find on YouTube. These are news sources I found on YouTube. South Korea reports 516 new virus cases. Total now 5,328. Death toll rises by 4 to number 33. 10 new cases of the virus are close contacts of case number 33. 2 more virus cases reported. The total number in India amounts to 33. So for those of us with the eyes to see, I think the picture becomes much clearer. For years on this channel, we follow the signs, we follow the symbols, follow the numbers. Oftentimes, that's where we find the truth. The people who run this world from the shadows are obsessed with numbers, and they're obsessed with symbols as well. And they use them as a form of control over others, and of sorcery for personal gain. What we're experiencing right now as humanity, collectively, is the most wide-reaching example of trauma-based mind control I've ever seen in my life. This whole situation is quickly developing into another 9/11, if you know what I mean. It was from that event that we really started to see the New World Order being built all around us. Here on my channel, we've been looking for and waiting for the next event for quite some time. It's not because we want doom or destruction, but it's because we understand how these people work. And we've seen them imprinting and programming us with this end-time scenario and these end-time situations for several years now.
Though the moment may be temporal, the shocks sustained from society will reverberate for many, many years to come. One does not experience trauma without being changed forever, and society will never be the same. See, the world is not suffering from the big C. It is suffering from the 3 C's: conflation, confluence, and confabulation. Well-known catalysts for manipulation. When the mind is hysterically driven to its cognitive limits via anxiety, the heart waxes cold, distant, detached, and broken, or dripping wet, mushy, and nervously codependent, bipolar, disoriented, and desperate. How can one trust the heart in such conditions? The mind, for that matter? And what there left remains for the spirit? A cavity within a shell remains, a vessel, a body to be moved, a person to be manipulated, quarantined, handled, and managed forcefully, like pieces on the boards of games. We all buy into the big deception to find our places in line, 6 feet apart, without a spine, without a clue, without a moment of peace. Society is now consumed by the spirit of anxiety, and death is its only concern and obsession, and the state within its Herculean arms is the only refuge for life.
We're on Tom Hanks's Instagram, and you may want to be sitting down and watching this video. You will not believe this one. So, of course, as some of you know, Tom Hanks contracted the so-called virus in Australia. All right, and apparently Tom Hanks is a lover of typewriters. You know, he's a typewriter aficionado, collector. So let's see what happened on this Instagram post here. Hey folks, good news. 1 week after testing positive in self-isolation, the symptoms are much the same. No fever, but the blahs. Folding the laundry and doing the dishes leads to a nap on the couch. Bad news, my wife, Rita Wilson, has won 6 course straight hands of gin rummy and leads by 201 points. Leads by 201 points.
The line between disinformation and misinformation is not always an easy one to find.
Governments need to be willing to do things that are out of their historical perspective, or for the most part, it's really a war footing that we need to be on.
It can happen quickly. A Marshall-type plan, don't mean to say that exactly, but a Marshall plan that can go into effect can stimulate a change very quickly.
The distrust relates to the health system more generally.
A step up from the part of the government on enforcement actions against fake news.
I think a couple of things we have to consider are, even before this began, the anti-vaccine movement was very strong, and this is something specifically through social media that has spread.
Welcome to Event 201.
Hi everyone, I'm Spiro, and what you just witnessed were highlights from Event 201, which took place in New York City on October 18th, 2019.
The average person touches their face 3 to 5 times every waking minute. In between, we're touching doorknobs, water fountains, and each other.
Beth! Mom? No, go up to your room, honey.
So we have a virus with no treatment protocol and no vaccine at this time.
Is there any way someone could weaponize the bird flu? Is that what we're looking at?
Someone doesn't have to weaponize the bird flu. The birds are doing that.
Watch this. It's transmission, so we just need to know which direction.
On day 1, there were 2 people, and then 4, and then 16. In 3 months, it's 1 billion. That's where we're headed.
They're calling out the National Guard. They're moving the president underground.
People will panic.
Get away!
It will tip over.
The truth is being kept from the world.
Cook your samples, destroy everything.
Please don't tell the supervisor I have the flu. I've been working with a shattered pelvis for 3 weeks.
Oh, my juice loosener's never gonna come.
Hey Dad, this came for you in the mail. Woohoo!
Mother, get an extra special hug ready. I bought you a new juicer. Good Lord. Flu germs entering every orifice in my head.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
the whole agenda is to create a one world government where everybody has an RFID chip implanted in them. All money is to be in those chips, right? There'll be no more cash. And this is given me straight from Rockefeller himself. This is what they want to accomplish. And all money will be in your chips. And so instead of having cash, anytime you have money in your chip, they can take out whatever they want to take out whenever they want to. If they say you owe us this much money in taxes, they just deduct it out of your chip digitally.
Total control.
Total control. And if you're like me or you, and you're protesting what they're doing, they can just turn off your chip. And you have nothing. You can't buy food. You can't do anything. It's total control of the people.
And that chip's connected to a database that has your purchasing records, what you do, what
everything,
you sell.
Everything is in there, you know? And so they want a one world government controlled by them, everybody being chipped, all your money in those chips, and they control the chips, and they control people, and you become a slave, you become a serf to these people. That's their goal, that's their intentions.
Eric, can you be specific about when?
If you can get a man to fixate upon his death only, you immediately control his living. The interesting part to this is the fact that most people are already accustomed to living in a false reality. The virtual reality of network news and social media simulacra has already replaced the physical world with a synthetic one. In a sense, manufactured reality is already accepted. So it makes sense why it would be so easy for the masses to accept fabricated madness and despair without question. People today are afraid of authenticity. They fear the intimacy packed in the seeds of the living. They trade such a chore for the static imprints of avatars and icons, badges, and emojis. We are perfectly rendered for times as these. Deception cannot be deciphered from sincerity. Good faith is a red flag, and abuse is our medicine. We will beg for our lashes and ask for one more when the pain is dulled by our spiritual numbness and masochistic dispositions. When the blood just isn't quite enough convincing, a gentle lie feels better than a bitter truth. The pipe hits a little different when you feel as if the world is ending. We will beg for our demolition. The hysteria of manufactured chaos in the media is better than reality.
Mr. President, earlier this year you told us you had ordered your administration to cease and desist on payments to journalists to promote your agenda. You cited the need for ethical concerns and the need for a bright line between the press and the government. Your administration continues to make the use of video news releases, which are prepackaged news stories sent to television stations, fully aware that some or many of these stations will air them without any disclaimer that they are produced by the government. Comptroller General of the United States this week said that raises ethical questions. Does it raise ethical questions about the use of government money to produce stories about the government that wind up being aired with no disclosure that they were produced by the government?
There is a Justice Department opinion that says these pieces are within the law so long as they're based upon facts, not advocacy. And I expect our agencies to adhere to that ruling, to that Justice Department opinion. This has been a long-standing practice of the federal government to use these types of videos. The Agricultural Department, as I understand, has been using these videos for a long period of time. The Defense Department, other departments have been doing so. It's important that they be based upon the guidelines set out by the Justice Department. Now, I think it'd be helpful if local stations then disclose to their viewers if that's, that this was based upon a factual report and they chose to use it. But evidently in some cases that's not the case. So anyway.
For the appeasement and taming of the emotions, it's just easier to have your thoughts made for you. This isn't a killer virus. This is a mass psychological operation being taken out on the entire earth. Death is inevitable in this life. But the usurpation and domination of humankind will take arduous measures, extreme measures. And today, it is clear that those measures are disproportionate to the situation at hand.
I've been wondering for years for how they were going to accomplish this, and now we know. Federal Reserve looking and developing a digital currency in the U.S. confirms Market Insider. All right, and I want to bring this to your attention too. It's not just going to be the adults with the opportunity for organization and persistent biometrically linked digital identity. The program will also explore and assess several leading infant biometric technologies to offer a persistent digital identity from birth, unlocking a potential global good. And this goes into ID 2020 Alliance, unveils the digital ID program with the opportunity for immunization to serve as a platform for digital identity. The program harnesses existing birth registrations to provide newborns with a portable and persistently biometrically linked digital ID. And this is from Biohack Info. Bill Gates will use microchip implants to fight the coronavirus. And he shows this, he posted on Reddit of all places. I'm working from home. What's this with his little antenna up there? And then his dog looks scared as can be to be associated with this guy. So Gates will launch the human implantable capsules that have digital certificates which can show who has been tested for the virus and who has been vaccinated against it. He went on Reddit, asked me, he says, quote, eventually we'll have some digital certificates to show who has recovered or who have been tested recently, or when we have a vaccine, who has received it. He's also said they're going to need 1 billion or more vaccines. He also said that it may be up to 18 months before a vaccine will be ready. The digital certificates Gates was referring to are human implantable, quote, quantum dot tattoos that researchers at MIT and Rice are working on as a way to hold vaccination records. Everybody must get vaxxed. And last December, when scientists from the university revealed they were working on these quantum dot tattoos, Gates approached them about solving the problem. No, creating problem, reaction, solution. So these quantum dot tattoos involve applying dissolvable sugar-based microneedles that contain a vaccine and fluorescent copper-based quantum dots embedded inside biocompatible micron-scale capsules. After the microneedles dissolve under the skin, they leave the encapsulable quantum dots, whose pattern can be ready to identify the vaccine that was being administered. They're implemented with Gates' other undertaking, ID 2020, with over 1 billion people need to get it, is solving through digital identity. The most feasible way of implementing digital identity is either through smartphones or RFID microchip implants. The latter will be Gates' likely approach because of the feasibility and sustainability. It's also spearheaded by MIT, which I showed you. They got the birth control microchip implant. And we see here Gates funds birth control microchip that lasts 16 years and can be turned and on or off with remote control. This is exactly what Aaron Russo, in his wonderful talk that got him killed, he was suicided with cancer, was talking about, was the on and off switch. They'll just turn off your chip. In the ID 2020, along with Gavi 2020, Microsoft has formed an alliance with companies Accenture, IDEO, Gavi, and the Rockefeller Foundation. The project is supported by the United Nations, has been incorporated in the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals Initiative. They're going to do this, folks.
As if we were not already dysfunctional in a destructive society. This reality is exacerbated further by our now enforced and internationally mandated isolation. Transformed into sardines encased by our tin can living quarters, we fester and itch. We grow more and more impulsive and suggestive by the hour. Well, surely not all of us, but a great majority appears to be rotting from the inside out, as if they were not already. They will say, Pornhub seems to perform a little better when you think the world is ending. What am I to worry? My shelves can't seem to bear much more weight in bottled alcoholic beverages, and neither can my liver. Who needs sleep when I have the latest console with the latest brain-deadening video games to fry myself with for the next 16 hours?
You mentioned banks. Are the legacy institutions, for the most part, banks, credit card companies, payment processors, friend or foe?
Many of them want to have these additional customers, but they have to embrace the idea that the fees are going to be a lot lower. And so they have to find a way to service these new customers. Now, that means these customers aren't going to be coming into their branches, and they can charge a higher fee when you want to actually cash out. But if it's a pure digital transaction, then, you know, you should be paying, you know, less than 1% to move that money from you to a merchant or from you to a friend.
Times change, and sometimes Mother Nature needs a hand in improving her creations. Like, say, speeding them up a little bit, making them contagious when they should be quietly incubating in a host, or making them more lethal. I didn't come up with the approach on my own. My friend Vitaly is one of the pioneers in the field, and the idea has been around for years. Genome as data. You see, once we digitized DNA, we made it infinitely mutable. We could do 1,000 virtual variations in the time it used to take to grow a 1 lab grade generation of pathogens. And we could pick the best, most lethal combinations and make them real. That's how you make a killer virus, you see. Mix in genetic code from other diseases, and you move the sliders all the way up on lethality and virulence. The goal was a 90% mortality rate. I'm not sure my green poison is going to quite hit that, but honestly, that's just details. As long as most of humanity goes, the Earth stands a fighting chance. Technically, technology is what's killing the planet. But that's not really the case. It's the greed that drives the technology. But a funny thing happened on the way to $100 genome maps and 3D printed plastic toys. Someone figured out those technologies could be repurposed, modified for the greater good. Me. Now, my virus is going to do what nature's always done. Decide who lives and who dies. And if nature decides I die, then I die. If nothing else, I'll have a lot of company.
An entire American city.
Known as the green poison, Central Park has been converted to a mass burial ground.
Power outages, gas line leaks, fires. The government's
expecting another night of widespread looting.
The people of New York are begging for
any
available units. Fire and house
Our first responders are either dead or no resources available.
being treated like animals.
It's not a job. We're not trained for that.
Natural selection at its finest, helped along by a little unnatural genetic manipulation. It's all data, really. Life's just a method of processing it. The same way I processed the smallpox genome on my laptop. And who's to say that wasn't the plan all along? If, by some miracle, you survive green poison, then nature's decided you deserve to live.
If we allow it. If we don't speak up now. All right, so Gates from Hell, what else is he coming out with? The coronavirus at-home testing kit to be provided by Gates from Hell Foundation in Seattle. What does Seattle have? They have the Space Needle, also the home to Costco, also where the first alleged coronavirus, where we already showed that crisis actors were used. The first lady that contracted it was a crisis actor. So anyway, early detection is essential, yada, yada. We have to respond. They're going to team up with the public health in King County. Looks like Seattle's being a focus along with these other California. In order to get the kit, residents who believe they may have been affected with the virus must complete a questionnaire. The leader of the coronavirus response told Seattle Times eventually be able to process thousands of tests a day, putting $100 million up for these test kits. Again, I ask, you get tests, you found you have the virus. What are you going to do? Self-quarantine? What are they making us do already? Yeah, I agree, Oscar. They're making us not making us, but we're doing it to ourselves. We're self-quarantining. So these test kits, again, are nothing but those that say you've got it, and then what are you going to do if the vaccine's not going to be ready for you to take to get you, they're supposed to get better, when we know it's not even being caused by germs.
Hi, I'm Fox San Antonio's Jessica Headley.
And I'm Ryan Wolf.
Our greatest
responsibility is to serve our
Treasure Valley communities,
the El Paso, Las Cruces communities,
Eastern Iowa communities,
Mid-Michigan communities.
We are extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But
we are concerned about trouble and trying to be responsible, one-sided news stories plaguing our country.
Plaguing our country.
You tell parents about getting their kids vaccinated. Measles. I'm the measles. Tell parents about vaccinations. They have to get the shot. The vaccinations are so important. This is really going around now. They have to get their shot.
All communications are down. The government is silent. We don't know who or what is causing this.
Nothing happened.
Germophobia. You know, that's the thing going on now. The shelter in place, the self-quarantine, the quarantine shaming. All of these terms we're taking in and being obedient to the servants. We're being obedient as little slaves, and we're walking off the plank, and we know we're walking off the plank, those of us that are awake and aware. So we must resist, and we must spread the word that this is really happening, folks. And they got all the players involved. I've showed many times how the 20, 30, 40 different vaccine companies are working on the vaccine, and you guarantee you they're all going to come up with a vaccine at once. It's going to be the 6-in-1 vaccine Gates talked about, and it's all going to come out when they're ready after enough panic, enough fear, and most likely deaths. I mean, this is kind of something else we have to face, folks. They say in California 25.5 million are going to get the virus. They just announced in New Jersey everyone's going to get the virus, and they have to come through in order to get people to panic enough, to be desperate enough to go in and take whatever medicine, whatever implants, whatever solutions the guys that want to kill you will offer you, because you have no other choice. They're limiting the foods in stores now. It's going to get panic time. They're calling out the martial laws. We're showing how the trucks are going everywhere, and they're going to protect the businesses. They're not going to protect the people. This is part of their MO. They're going to protect the businesses and all the businesses that are essential, and then there are not enough police to guard everybody, so people are going to be left. They're letting people out of the prisons. They want the mayhem. They want violence. They're not going to be cops in the normal way anymore. You're not going to be able to call when you have a heart attack or you have something happen, a broken body or something. You're not going to be able to go to a hospital because the hospitals are already being overwhelmed because Jesuit Governor Newsom has already said he's bringing ships in. They're bringing ships in and parking them already off the coast of Los Angeles. And then we see Carnival Cruise is offering to supply idle cruise ships as floating FEMA camps. One-way trip to Corona Island. Notice the name of the boat, folks. Carnival Freedom. A boat you'll never depart from. Once you get on the boat, you're never coming back. So in closing, this was brought to my attention as well. We're seeing now in the CEO of the corporation, USA Inc., the Trump dumpster, I mean, he doesn't have the presidential seal on his podium anymore. Is that important? Is that significant? Remember, they're a corporation. Symbols are everything, and they operate under maritime law. So there must be something significant about removing the presidential symbol from the podium. I haven't quite figured that out, so maybe some of you can share in the notes what you think that's all about. But again, this virus is not being spread by germs. It cannot happen, as I showed in the last video. Do not give in to the fear. Go hug people. Show you're not afraid. Show you're not going to give in. Show you're not going to be obedient. Don't give in to the madness. Reach out with loving arms. Hug your friend. Kill them with kindness. Let them know that you're not going to give in to the fear-mongering, and you will not be obedient to be enslaved with chips and your children enslaved and newborn babies, and that's it. Checkmate humanity. We still have a choice. We still can act. We still can be the change we have to see. And in that change, say what you want, but get back to the gardens, find out where your sources come from, build your community, and give your love to people. They're going to need it now because they're stressing big time, all right?
21 individuals on the Grand Princess tested positive.
Among those positive for coronavirus, 19 crew members and 2 passengers.
U.S. Vice President Mike Pence sharing an update Friday after coronavirus tests were airlifted to and from the Grand Princess cruise ship off California. The ocean liner, with more than 3,500 people on board, including hundreds of Canadians, has been barred from returning to its home port in San Francisco after a traveler from its previous trip died of COVID-19. A total of 46 people have been tested so far.
We built heaven and made it float. Royalty Cruises.
This is General William Sullivan with an emergency message. I'm speaking to you from a CDC clean zone. Outbreak of the deadly Pandora virus is spreading rapidly. Unprecedented threat requires a worldwide quarantine. All ships must remain at sea until further. Humanity must endure.
A virus?
We're stuck on the ship!
What should we do?
They're buying it. They're buying it. Chillingly plausible indeed, Joe Morgenstern of the Wall Street Journal. The Wall Street Journal, Wall Street Journal, Wall Street Journal.
I'm saying don't take it. This is not something you can play with and back out of. I have sat there with Gates from the CIA, with Bush when he was with the CIA, with Henry Kissinger and these people in meetings in Luxembourg where they discussed the very thing you cannot control a people if you cannot identify them. And that's why we have $500 million in welfare fraud every quarter, is because you can't identify people. You can fake cards. You can counterfeit cards. You can lose cards. You can loan your card to somebody else. But the microchip in the hand, you cannot lose your hand. You might lose your keys, but you can't lose your hand. You can't bend, staple, or mutilate the thing. You can't counterfeit it. And if somebody steals your hand and goes to the market to use it to buy food, the guy's going to know right away something is wrong. Okay? Can you imagine carrying your friend's head into the supermarket and saying, I want to buy these groceries? Folks, it is the ultimate identification, and it is here. It is being used. 17,000 babies were done 3 years ago. There is no ill effects. We've got these projects coming. I just talked to a man from Sweden today, and he said they did 6,000 men in Sweden with the microchip and have had no problems at all. It is coming worldwide. You see, this scripture talks about the world. It doesn't talk about just the United States. There is a one world government coming. By the way, there is a one world government under Jesus Christ that's coming. The Antichrist has got to use everything he can do to fake his one world government.
Distrust relates to the health system more generally.
A step up from the part of the government on enforcement actions against fake news.
I think a couple of things we have to consider are, even before this began, the anti-vaccine movement was very strong, and this is something specifically through social media that has spread.
Welcome to Event 201.
The president died 2 months ago, the vice president a week later. Russia no longer has a functioning government. Most of our population is dying or dead. Does Dr. Scott have what she needs to make a vaccine?
7 months ago, outside Cairo, there was an outbreak. The virus was like nothing any of us had ever seen. When we left Norfolk, the virus was at phase 2. We are now at phase 6. Global pandemic.
Hello. I need you to get me the names of everyone who serviced this room. It's an emergency.
You can't panic now.
I know.
I'm gonna get you home.
I got people too, Dr. Cheever. We all do.
Don't talk to anyone. Don't touch anyone. Stay away from other people.
Get back in your car. We're not sick.
It's figuring us out faster than we're figuring it out.
It's mutated.
Bam, 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 bam. Bam, 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 bam.
Ooh, this motherfucking Silverado.
Add all the combo of vaccines, chemtrails, and 5G, and the body becomes internally digitized to be remotely controlled.
If you like your health care plan, you'll be able to keep your health care plan.
A person's organ functions can be stopped remotely if one is deemed non-compliant. Wuhan was a test run for ID 2020. The elites call this 60 GHz 5G wave the V-wave virus to mock us.
If you like your doctor, you will be able to keep your doctor. Period. Everyone's going to have to chip in. That's only fair.
You will get chipped eventually. Just like they said, fake meat is coming, whether you like it or not, lab-grown meat. This is one of their open agendas. And so as they stand up these quarantine centers across the country and talk about helping the homeless, we should be extremely suspicious. And that ties into the cashless society agenda. All of these agendas, 21, Agenda 30, all of these things are being pushed forward rapidly right now. The forced vaccinations, apparently the digital RFID chip, and the quarantine centers being established.
We got 4 civilians here. Roger. Let's go, move! Move!
Okay.
Let's go!
Okay, okay.
Excuse me, sir. Sir, excuse me. Listen, we need your help. Our friend, she's hurt. She's trapped in her building right by here at Columbus Circle.
Yeah, that is not where you want to be right now.
Do you guys know what it is out there? Do you know what that thing is?
No, they ain't telling me. Whatever it is, it's winning.
Or weeks. What's life anyways but an opportunity to further end it? Screw it, on quarantine, every night is a Friday night. Every night, every day is a moment to get bent. Is it not that this predicament we have so swiftly been placed in, breeding our deepest and lowest natures, reinvigorating our forgotten vices and neglected old habits? Switching our moderation to fixation, turning our guilty pleasures into involuntary compulsions? At the behest of our masterclass statesmen and scientific elite? What left decency have you? What left virtue exists in that little space you call man? That diminutive morsel called woman? Isolation has been scientifically proven to induce one with anxiety and depression, whereby abuse is encouraged, both self-harm and interpersonal dysfunction. Is it no surprise that domestic abuse hotlines are blowing up already, within literally a matter of days under such confinement? Could suicide numbers increase as well over time? it would follow that within these conditions, child abuse would increase as well. Porn use is increasing, drug use is increasing, overall interpersonal abuse is increasing. Escapism has become God. What if all of this wasn't just some brash reaction to some vague and elusive virus, but designed and sculpted as an experiment, an operation of global proportions? Knowing very well the implications and results spiritually and psychologically of its subjects. To add, aside from outright execution, death by gas, bullet, or rope, what is the most severe form of punishment and containment practiced for the most violent and unruly citizens by the state? Solitary confinement. Isolation. The antithesis of humanity's interpersonal nature. The death blow to the soul, an ultimate means to subdue it.